The first assumption you've probably already made is that this is going to be sickly sweet because of the Coca-Cola. While there is a little sweetness, there's also a lot of savory flavors going on. The reason's explained in Volume 3 of my cookbook series, but right now all you need to know is that this makes a killer side dish for barbecued foods. It's like the American equivalent of sweet and sour cabbage, which is hugely popular across Europe. This is also a great ingredient to use in other dishes, as I'll be showing in upcoming videos. Have the ingredients here lined up. I've got 450 grams of red onions, which I'm going to cut into rings in just a couple of minutes. The bay leaf, 100 grams of tomatoes. I'm using regular American Coca-Cola for this. I actually prefer the German Africola. It works a little bit better if you can get it. I couldn't find any here in Russia right now. Usually it's around, but somehow it's not around right now. The red wine vinegar, the salt, and the paprika. Very simple list of ingredients for this. Beginning with a very large non-stick pan, and I'm going to put about 15 milliliters, about a tablespoon of the oil in that. And going to begin, and you turn over all of the pieces of tomatoes so that the skin side is down. The heat's on number 6 out of 10, and just leave it sit here. Don't keep stirring it around. Just leave the tomatoes sit there until the skin begins to caramelize a little bit. That's the first step. And while the tomatoes are cooking, you cut your onions into rings that are somewhere around 5 millimeters thick. You know, they can vary quite a bit. It's still okay. Just don't have really thick ones or really thin ones. The thin ones will burn and the thick ones won't cook. After 8 or 9 minutes, you can check the bottom. You can see there's some blistering that's happened on the skin. That's good. Now I'm going to do is remove these to a little dish. We're going to add these back in later on. Now, add the rest of that oil, just about 30 grams, 30 milliliters, something like that. Swirl it around a little bit, make sure the bottom's coated, and then we're going to add all of those sectioned onions. The sliced onions go in and begin moving them around to break up the rings a little bit. You can tap on them a little bit. As they cook, they'll separate. After 5 or 6 minutes, this is what it looks like. And now I'm going to add the bay leaf, nestle it on down in there somewhere, get it towards the bottom, and about a third of the cola. Only about a third right now. Just like that. And we're going to continue cooking it. Stir it once in a while. Don't stir it too often. After about 12 minutes, you can see it's been reduced down to a glaze. Now I'm going to add salt. Sprinkle it evenly. And another third of the cola, approximately, of course. The exact amount's not critical. And we'll continue cooking it and reduce it down to a glaze yet again. Now, after about 8 minutes more, it's fairly dry again. I'm going to add this paprika in. And then the rest of the cola is the last of the cola. And after about 5 minutes, it looks like this. It's not completely a glaze again. There's some liquid there, but it's kind of juicy, I guess would be a good description for it. Now I'm going to add these tomatoes back in finally. And the red wine vinegar. And I'm turning the heat down, so it's been on 6 out of 10 the whole time. Now I'm turning the heat way down to 3, and I'm going to put a lid on it. And this is what you want to see through the lid. Simmering. It's a good simmer, but it's not boiling rapidly and burning, and it's not just sitting there going bloop bloop. It needs to have a good amount of simmering, just like this. And after 10 minutes has passed, I'm going to open it up, stir it around a little bit, and this looks pretty good. I'm gonna let it continue cooking for just another minute, just to thicken it up just a tiny bit more than this. I'm very pleased to announce the release of Volume 3, the focus on food chemistry. I want to clear up a few things about these 3 volumes. First, they all contain completely different information. There's no duplication, they're not revisions. When I wrote Volume 1, I had 2.5 years of YouTube videos to cover. People had been asking me for the printed list of ingredients for all of those dishes, and so I obliged. There are recipes with stepwise directions and many tips offered throughout, as well as an extensive history of Russian cuisine over the last 1,000 years, but Volume 1 is very different from Volume 2 and 3. In Volumes 2 and 3, I only had about 9 months of YouTube recipes to cover in each, so I was able to provide stepwise directions for everything. In Volume 2, I included a lot of additional information about cooking and some simple examples of flavor chemistry to set the stage for Volume 3. While Volume 2 hopefully got you thinking about some of the processes that go on in cooking and how flavors are expressed and sensed at the molecular level, the topic was painted with pretty broad strokes to make it easy to digest, pun intended. Volume 3 is a milestone in the series, in which I've included an entire introductory course in food chemistry, which is why Volume 3 is about 70 pages longer than Volume 2. And if you just want the recipes, that's okay too. You don't have to read the first few chapters, but if you've ever been curious about what influences tastes and flavors and the rationale for deciding cooking times and temperatures and why things taste different when they're combined in different ways, this book will answer many of those questions. It also paves the way for Volume 4, which will be next year. If you want to know more about my adventures as a chef around the world and have some great laughs along the way, be sure to check out the video tour of my book, 40 Years in One Night. It's up on YouTube right now. Click the link. Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.